Okay, let's try this again. So, for September and October, I'm going to be doing some little segments like this called Story Time. And it's basically kind of just to get to know me. Um, as I said in the last video, um, I worked around a lot of death. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. Um, I've worked in different areas of death care, and pretty much I've if you can think of a way that a person can go, uh, I've probably seen it and witnessed it, and yeah. So some of these stories are kind of what helped shape me, and not gonna lie, it's gonna get a little dark. Um, these little short videos are definitely not for kids, so if you have kids, you definitely don't want to have them watching this. So, now, having said that, um, I'm sorry if any of this stuff offends anyone. It's not meant to offend. These are my personal experiences, and I'm just telling you some of the things that I've been through and that I have observed and witnessed and been a part of. So, having said that, yeah, let's begin. Um, I started out, it was kind of in between working for the state and the county. I'm not going to say what state or what county because yeah, due to some of the sensitive nature of some of these stories, I can't say where I worked and some of the things that I did. So, yeah. Um, so, in between working for the state at the time, I had been working in corrections, and corrections, I mean, it's a good job, it's a stable job. You're always going to have work. A lot of times, you're going to have too much work, meaning, depending on how short staffed they are, you are going to have to stay at work. Um, some of the places that you work in that, you know, you can't just come and go, and you can't like quit because it's kind of against the law, or at least it was where I worked, and that's kind of frowned upon as it's dereliction, because you are supposed to basically keep the offenders and make sure that they don't escape and harm the public. So, in between working that job and working for a different county, I I met a guy, and he ran a company that contracted picking up bodies for coroner's offices and different funeral homes. So you kind of had two different uniforms. One being a suit and tie if it was for a funeral home, and the other being kind of all black, kind of looked like some SWAT outfit. You know, black shirt, black cargo pants, black boots, hell, even black gloves. Uh, so that was when you would have to go work and pick up bodies for the coroner. And that is a whole different experience because you go to the scene wherever they died. They could It could be a car accident. It could be a doggone. It could be a doggone suicide, a homicide, a drug overdose, drownings, fires. Yeah, wherever they go, that's where you get them. And you go there and you retrieve the body and take it to take it and hand it over to the coroner's office. And so you're going out there, you're getting your hands dirty, and yeah, some of those scenes are pretty doggone bad. You'll, you know, I've seen gunshot wounds, suicides that involved either guns, or some of them were kind of creative. You see some sad stuff, some funny stuff. Yeah, but going back, I met this guy. I'm not gonna say his name, not gonna say the company. Dude was a really good guy. He was really good to me, and so I met him through a friend of a friend. And first time I meet the guy, we met in a public place. He brought his van, one of his vans, that was all kitted up and fixed for picking up bodies. And so I met him at a restaurant parking lot, and it probably, to whoever was seeing it, you know, it probably looked like a shady drug deal or something. You know, you see these two guys. One of them is in a suit and tie, had the long dark overcoat, and were fumbling around in the back of a van. And then all of a sudden, the van shuts, and we both go separate ways. So that probably looked real shady. And so yeah, so that was when I met him, and he basically was redoing his business and needed some help, and I needed some work at the time. And so yeah, we met up, introduced ourselves, and basically got hired on the spot. And he said, I'll be in touch, keep your phone on you, and the next one that comes up, we'll go to work. So, and at the time, he didn't have as much business. He was still kind of ramping up and getting everything together. And yeah, so a couple days go by, and I'm like calling him, thinking like, oh man, you know, maybe he's not going to use me. Maybe he found someone else. And I called him. He's, man, I haven't had any calls. And so then, you know, a couple more days go by and no calls. And then, you know, one day I'm at home, and I think we had some people coming over, so we had some stuff to do. And yeah, I think just as the people got there to the house, yeah, that's when the phone rang, and like, hey, let's go to work. And so had to get on my little suit and tie and look presentable and fly out the door and meet this guy. And basically I met him at a location that was close to where the deceased was at. And yeah, so then you know, I get in the van. I park my car, I get in the van, and you know, he's telling me, okay, this is where we're going, this is the deceased name and everything. And you know, you have to keep track of a lot of that stuff for billing. So yeah, so we proceed to go to, I think it was like an apartment or a retirement home. And yeah, we go there. And, I think the family might have been there, or it might have been someone that worked there, but they kind of let us into the room. And then he kind of showed me the way that he does everything. And yeah, so we had to wrap the deceased in kind of like a sheet and gently place her onto the cot and buckle her in. And then there's like a cover that goes over the cot that kind of hides everything. And yeah, wheeled her out and took her to, I think it was a funeral home that we were taking her to. And he showed me, how to do everything there, how to, some of them you got to put them on the little embalming table. Some of them you got to put them in a cooler. I don't really remember where we had to take this one. I think it might have been a cooler. So you got to take them into the cooler and put them on a shelf. So he showed me how to do that. And then, yeah, went from there. So that was my first one with him done and over with. And I went back to my normal day. Thing about that job is you are on call 24/7. Always got to have your cell phone with you. And yeah, it can get a little stressful. You might get 1, 2, 3 calls back to back. Sometimes you'll go a couple of days and no calls. And then all of a sudden, one day, I think I've had, can't remember how many. It was over 10 calls in a day that I had to go pick up. And some of those you had to wear a suit. Some of them you had to wear the like a SWAT looking outfit. And yeah, it was a good job. You can make pretty decent money doing that. And yeah, it's one of those things. Started out real easy, nothing too serious, and then it eventually ramped up to where, I was, going to some pretty gnarly scenes and seeing some pretty nasty stuff. Some of that stuff has kind of stuck with me, and I'll never forget it. That's the thing about working jobs like this. You you never expect it. Some people can deal with it real easily, and others can't. I dealt with it for a number of years, and it did not affect me. And then one day, all of a sudden, it did. But we'll get into that later on. Right now, we're just talking about, picking up dead bodies and some of the fun stories that go along with that. A lot of these, some of these I'm not going to be able to have on this channel. So a lot of them, if I record them on here, it's going to go onto my YouTube. So yeah, if you like these stories, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat. Yeah, this stuff was kind of a big part of my life for a number of years, and I since have moved on from that type of work. I'm no longer around it anymore, and yeah, I would go back and do it. If the money were right, I would definitely go back to doing that, because I made I made a pretty good living. Um, I didn't sleep a whole lot. It seems like just as you get to sleep, your phone kind of wakes you up and you got to go off on a call. And so that's kind of what would happen with me. I mean, I've gotten calls in the middle of the night. I've gotten calls early in the morning. I've gotten calls, sitting at the pool, with the family. I've had to, rush out of there and go to work and go pick up a body and who knows where and who knows what condition. Um, had a pretty gnarly one time when I was with the family at the pool. My partner at the time, the guy who was helping me out when I was on call, um, he was pretty much staying at my house. That way I didn't have to go meet the guy. I can tell you a story about him. His very first call with me. This guy, he's a veteran, and so I mean, he cleaned up well, very well spoken, really nice guy, little short, stocky dude, really freaking strong. But yeah, first, I first met him kind of like at his interview, and the boss calls me up, wants me to meet him and the new guy. Um, so I meet them and kind of show him the uniform, and we exchange numbers because he got hired, and let him know, hey, whenever you see this number, you might want to answer it because that means we're going to work. So the very first call that I did with him, he had to meet me, and I think it was a facility call, and yeah, so he met me, and I think it kind of freaked him out because I'd been doing it for a while, so I was kind of cold and callous and insensitive to the fact that we're picking up someone's loved one, or basically a dead body. That's kind of one of the things that you do after you've been doing that for a while. You kind of get a little cold, and you don't, to someone else that's in that industry, you kind of talk a little different. If the family or staff from the facility is around, you're very caring and empathetic, but to kind of save yourself on the inside, you don't look at them as a person. That's a call. That is, that's a number that basically, you know, that's the way that I did it. Not everybody does that, but I just kind of separated myself. I was able to shut off that like little switch in myself that says, "Hey, I'm still human." That's kind of self-preservation, so to say. So I meet this guy middle of the night at a facility, and I explain to him, the first thing you want to do, match the name with the person. This was a facility call, so they're going to have kind of like a wristband saying who they are. If you've ever been to a hospital, they have those. And, you always want to double check, because you might get sent to the wrong room or the wrong location, and you don't want to be picking someone up thinking that they're dead and it's the wrong person or the wrong room. I've had that happen, and it kind of, yeah, I can't even imagine what it was like. Uh, I got sent to the wrong room one time, and I am getting ready to wrap this lady up in a sheet and transfer her onto the cot. And I look down, and she's blinking at me, and her eyes are moving, and scared her, and definitely scared me because I was not ready for that. So, yeah, I had to, call in one of the nurses and say, hey, what's going on here? Uh, and she let me know, hey, oops, we sent you to the wrong room. So I didn't want that to happen to anyone else. So I just, whenever I would train guys, I would tell them about that and let them know to always double check and verify. So, going back to the story. So, I kind of showed the guy how we do things. You kind of wrap them up, pull the corner of the sheets around the person and wrap them up, kind of like a little human burrito. And you kind of always take the bottom sheet with you. At least we did. And yeah. So I showed him, hey, you want to check, make sure there's no pulse, make sure they're in fact dead. And I'm kind of like holding this arm up to check a pulse, and it's kind of flopping around, and this kid's eyes are like, psh. He's like, what the fuck? So yeah, that kind of freaked him out a little bit. And I'm like, hey, this is how you check, for a pulse. And so we wrapped this lady up and took her and dropped her off at I think that was a funeral home also. But yeah, that was his first experience. And then he would start staying with me. And yeah, he would stay over at the house a couple days a week whenever he was on call, and that would ensure us getting to a scene or a call and getting there pretty quick, because he was the type, he had just gotten out of the military, so he was used to kind of moving a little quickly. And yeah, so one nice hot summer day, we are chilling at my pool and having a good day. I think we were gonna be grilling out that evening. This is probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're just hanging out, getting a nice tan, enjoying the sun, hanging out around the pool, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and it's the boss doing dispatch. He gives me a name, the victim's name, a location, which was really close to where I lived. There was a fatal crash on the highway, and we kind of needed to get there, and we kind of needed to take kind of a different route to get there. And so we literally had to get in the, get dressed, get in the van. It was just the next exit north. I lived right by the highway. This was actually on the highway, so we had to go one exit north, get off the highway, and then go around. Police had it blocked off, and we had to, show them, who we were. I can't remember if we had like these IDs or a thing in the car that we show them, but yeah, they're just happy that we're there because they're wanting to get traffic back open, because the southbound lane of the highway was completely shut down. And, he told me on the phone, hey, this is gonna be a pretty gnarly, nasty one. The guy was partially ejected, and so not to scare my new guy that was with me, I want you to kind of try to cover that guy up as quick as you can. And so I'm like, okay, roger that. We get there, and they had just kind of turned the car back over and pulled the guy out and laid him on the highway. And he was obviously dead. His head had been completely crushed by the car and rubbed along the pavement and had come apart. His head looked like a deflated basketball. And going back in the story, he told me, when you get close to the scene, watch where you're driving, because the guy's head is all over the highway. So yeah, you guys are gonna need to pick that shit up. And yeah, pretty nasty. So we pull the van up. We made sure not to run over the rest of the guy's head that was on the highway. Mind you, hot summer day, very hot, and that pavement gets very hot. So yeah, we get out of the vehicle. He's kind of, this is his first time seeing something like this, so he's kind of wanting to see it, but at the same time not wanting to see it. And so I tried to cover the guy up as quickly as I could. And we had to put him in a body bag and get him onto the cot. And then since we still had gloves on, we had to get some bio bags. And anybody that's ever any veterans that have ever been to the range, or veterans or police officers, anyone that goes to the range, when you got to do a police call for brass, which is shell casings, you kind of get online, everybody spreads out, gets online, and then moves in a certain direction to get everything up. Well, by that time the owner had showed up, and so being the nice guy that he was, he's like, well, I'll help you guys, that way we can speed this up. So yeah, the three of us proceeded to glove up, each grabbing a bag, a bio bag, and we got online. And in the middle of the highway, because it's completely shut down, we're the only ones there besides police and fire. And so we we get online, and we are picking up the rest of this guy's head, and it's literally everywhere on this highway. What had happened is the vehicle was in the middle lane, and I guess he went to pass and somehow slammed into the wall, flipped the car. At the area, the wall had those things that kind of go up, keeping you in the lane, but it flipped his car. And even though, dude was wearing a seatbelt, there was, I think, 2 other people in the car with him, and they were okay except for him. But when the vehicle flipped, he had the sunroof open, and he was partially ejected out of the sunroof. And even though he had his seatbelt on, but when the car came down, his head was crush between the pavement and the car, the roof of the car, and it just skidded on its top for probably a good 300 something feet, which it's a lot, and they had to been going pretty quick. But yeah, so going back to being online and picking this mess up, the three of us are online and we are moving southbound on the highway in line, picking up chunks of this guy's head, a lot of skull fragments. I mean, it was very obvious what we were picking up. Guy's head was everywhere, and you know, we had a little saying that I used to tell the new guys, if this is too much for you, I want you to say, hey, I gotta grab something out of the van. That lets me know, hey, this is too much. And he'll go wait in the van. He's still getting paid, you know, but it's not for everybody, and it's pretty bad. So basically, you know, after we'd been doing that for a few minutes, and he's picking up skull and chunk and scalp and stuff like that, he politely said, hey, I gotta grab something out of the van. And so I'm like, okay, roger that. Go ahead. The body was already on the cot. All we had left to do was pick up the rest of this guy's head and put it into these little bio bags, put it inside the body bag, zip it up, lock it, and put them in the van, and we're gone. So I knew that was probably a little much for him, but he wanted to get broken in and do some of the crazy scenes, and so yeah, there we are. So then it's just me and the boss. And the boss, when we're on scene, there's a lot of times there's no one around, so we have to, we try to crack jokes or talk, that way you don't, think about kind of the fact that you're picking up skull and brain and putting it into a bag. I remember part of it, one of the chunks was a lip, the top lip, and I think part of the mustache, and I don't remember if it was a nose or whatever, but that shit was everywhere, and we had to get as much of it as we could and take it back with us for the coroner. And so yeah, we definitely the boss is kind of laughing. He's like, yeah, I'm good on this too. So then it was just me, and he walked with me, but he didn't want to pick anything up. I remember I got a chunk of brain. I was trying to fling it into the bag because by the time we were doing this, the brain matter was kind of like a hot marshmallow consistency. So it was pretty sticky, and I'm trying to flick it and fling it into the bag. And I remember a piece got stuck to my forearm, and it kind of burned me a little bit. I got like a little bit of a little burn, but yeah. Eventually, we got the rest of that guy picked up, got back in the van, took that guy, and dropped him off, and went back to the pool. And yeah, by that time, it was dinner time, so I'm hungry. The guy that was staying with me, he's like, yeah, I'll pass. I'm not too hungry right now. And I'm like, okay, So yeah, that's that's just one of the many, many stories I have about this stuff. But yeah, if you've been tuning in this long, thank you. And I love you guys. And I'll be doing some more stories with stuff like this. So yeah, love you guys. Have a good day and enjoy your day. And